Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So I'm James. I'm the product manager here at Too Simple, and I was involved in the creation, design, and the whole concept from beginning to end of Python in Pieces. And Python in Pieces was originally conceived as a way of transitioning our students from our sort of end of school at age 11 into high school. Children in what we would call primary school over here, up to ages 11, they're used to, very visually stimulating coding environments and really exciting games that they can create. So when we were looking at this, we looked at what studies we'd got that are out there, and we were very fortunate in the UK. We have a number of leading experts in teaching computing, and there was a 2019 report called the Roehampton Annual Computing Report. Sounds very boring, but what we managed to find was that overall the number of computing qualifications taken by students had decreased by 45%. I mean, that's just in the UK, but that was from the previous year. And we knew that the number of hours of computing and ICT taught in secondary school were dropped by 36% from 2012 to 2017. And at the ages 11 to 14, the time given for computing had dropped just by from 1 hour in 2012 to just over 45 minutes in 2017. So we were seeing just this decline, and it came from a number of things, really. The main thing that we found was that there were not enough teachers with sufficient subject knowledge to deliver the computer science curriculum over here. And actually, we looked into the data and we found that only 36% of computing teachers in secondary schools were actual computer science graduates. And again, all these reports, I can send over links to them. They make for really interesting reads. And this is at a time where we're seeing in education, when that report was done, computing in decline. And yet in 2018, the games industry accounted for more than half of the UK entertainment market, and almost every sector of our UK game industry was growing. And at that point, we had something like 2,500 computer game companies here in the UK. So the situation that we'd got was we'd got block-based programming being taught in primary, and then in secondary, there was a shift to text-based code, and the most popular language being Python, with 21% of schools opting to teach Python coding. So what we wanted to make was Python in Pieces, and it was designed to seamlessly transition students from block code to text-based coding. It comes with activities. It's a challenging interactive environment. It allows children to learn the language of Python, and enables specialist and non-specialist teachers to teach computing with confidence. And our philosophy behind it, I know that over here, I'm sure it's the same over there, that robotics and getting children to make things move is kind of it's a bit of a wow factor, but it's quite niche. If I can be blunt about it, it's a very niche area of programming and computer science. It's exciting, but it's niche. And I liken it to, South Africa, you're a proud rugby nation or cricketing nation, whatever your sport is. And if you'd got a student who'd never played rugby before, you wouldn't start by just throwing them into a game. Let's just play a game of rugby. You'd teach them how to catch a ball. You'd teach them how to throw a ball and kick a ball. And you'd explain the rules to them and how a game works. And that's the same with Python and computer science. Ultimately, we need children to learn this language and then look to how they can apply that. And one of those things, of course, is robotics. But actually, Python is used in a wide variety of we use it. We use it at Too Simple to write some of our applications. It's used for web apps. It's used as scripts to automate tasks. It's used in software applications, pages within a web browser, shells of operating systems, and games as well. And it does go into robotics, but it actually covers a huge thing. Now, the reason that Python is taught in schools is because compared to other programming languages such as C++ and Java, Python is much more concise. It's a much more expressive language. It requires less time, effort, and even requires fewer lines of code to perform the same operations that you would in those other languages. And it's also popular because it's simple programming syntax. And it's very similar to sort of the English language. It's very expressive. So that's why we did it. We wanted to get children coding. We wanted to get them coding in an actual language, which then they could apply to whatever, sector they wanted, whether that's web design, whether that is databases, password security, robotics, whatever it is. So that's why we did it. And I think now, Tim, is that the time for you to show what Python actually is?
Cool, thank you so much. So now I'm in Python in Pieces. By now you should all have login details to get into Python in Pieces. If you don't, please let us know. We can sort you out really quickly with that. And your learners should also have their own usernames and passwords and all the details to get into Python. And I know that a lot of you are Microsoft schools, so you are using single sign-on for Microsoft. If you aren't using that yet, please do let us know, because getting into the program is going to be much easier when you're already working in Microsoft and the kids just use the single sign-on and they log in really easy like that. It's much easier than having multiple login details. So when you get into the platform, for those of you that were in the Purple Mash training last week or have done a lot of Purple Mash training previously, please just understand that this is going to be much quicker. It's a much simpler program to try and explain. The whole of the Python in Pieces program is very self-explanatory. So I'm going to show you mostly the admin tools and just explain to you what you're looking at on the home screen mostly. So on the home screen, you've got your new project, which is just once you've finished all of the levels, or at least level 1, you can move into new project where you can create a free code project or a microbit project. And that will just give you everything you need block-wise to move into writing your own program, and obviously give you the option to write in the Python syntax as well. Then we have our documents area, which is where we're going to keep anything that we've created and we want to save. And tasks, which for those of you that know Purple Mash is basically the exact same thing as your to-dos. You can set these tasks for your learners. This is where you'll come to edit the tasks that you've set, and anyone that's handed in work, you'll find it in the tasks area. But to start off with, you are mostly going to be using the levels. So using the tasks in the beginning isn't really something that you're going to need to do unless you just want to kick off setting level 1 as a task. Then we've got the community showcase, where you can upload any work that you've made or that your learners have made, something that they might be proud of, that they want to share with the world. You can upload it into the community showcase, which will then be vetted and then put onto Purple Mash if it's suitable to be online. And let's just go into this so you can see it. Other kids and pupils from all over the world will be able to come into the community showcase. And sorry, I've just somehow removed my screen program. They'll be able to get into the community showcase and look at work that other kids from all over the world have done. Okay, and then we've got our data area, which is where I'm going to go into just after we speak about the levels. Data is where you're going to come and find any of the results of what your learners have done in the levels, and you can print out reports in that area to use for your assessments. So I'm going to start in the teacher admin area just to show you that we've got the two main parts of this that you're going to look at is manage users and user guides. So inside manage users, this is where you're going to go in and add or remove any of your learners. You can add some staff, you can create teaching groups and things like that. Adding learners, obviously we would have probably done this already for you when you signed up. But if you have 1 or 2 new kids that come to the school, you just go into students, click on add on the top of the screen, and then put in all of the details, and then select the class that they're going to be a part of. So if you don't select the class, you won't be able to set tasks for that specific learner, and you won't be able to find their results very easily. And then inside staff, the one thing I'm going to show you is that when you have got your staff member loaded, you do need to assign them to the class that they're teaching. So inside the staff, you go into edit user, and under classes, you'll be able to see all the classes that you have on your portal, and please then assign the specific teacher to the class that they're teaching. Otherwise, they cannot see results, they cannot set tasks, they can't do any of that. They're just going to see the standard Python login screen. So that is how we are going to get started with adding users, or when it comes to removing users or moving them up into the next year, which we'll talk about at the end of this year. All of that's going to be found in manage users. And then just impersonate student login is where you can go and impersonate a learner's account. So if they're having an issue and you want to go see from your point of view what they're seeing, you can go and impersonate a student login. But please do remember that if you do impersonate a student or a learner and you do any work as that learner, that work will be done as if it was that learner doing the work, and the results will show up in the data area as them having done it. And then we've got user guides, which is where I'm going to have a look at now. And inside the user guides, we obviously just have standard user guides, which you're welcome to go and read through at any point. We've got getting started, managing users, which we've just spoken about, managing documents, data, community showcase, how to use all of these areas of Purple Mash, which again, we more than happy to meet with you and talk through all of this with you. We're not expecting you to go off and read PDFs all the time. But what we want to look at in this user guide area mostly is looking at this lesson content and progression document. This will show you through all of the levels of Python in Pieces what exactly your learners are learning. So we've got in the levels, you will see the stage that they're busy doing, the code that they're going to learn, the aspects of programming, the constructs, algorithmic thinking, and the levels of abstraction. So this is just really nice in case you think maybe they're not learning anything. This is where you're going to come and find exactly what they are learning in terms of programming. So it's a really nice area for you to just come and browse through yourself. Or often we have parents asking us, you know, what exactly is my child learning? You're welcome to take them into that and share it with them. We also have Python in Pieces certificates that we've made that I will share with you at the end of the session, and they should hopefully soon be up in the teacher area for you to download certificates. And on those certificates, it will tell you exactly what they've learned to complete a certain level. And then we have the solutions. So for me, I find this incredibly useful. If you are a teacher that doesn't really know Python yourself, or you don't really have the time to go and do all of the levels so that you know what your learners are doing, you can just come into the solutions area and you will see the solution for every single activity throughout all of the levels in Python in Pieces. So this is useful to keep saved somewhere or print out and put in a file. So if one of your learners are coming in and they say they don't know what to do or they're stuck, come into this area, see exactly what the code is meant to look like, and you can talk them through it. That makes you look like an absolute genius, even if you don't know exactly what you're talking about. And for those of you that do know what you're talking about, it's just a time saver. So that is the solutions area of the teacher section. Right. Then just so you know what these are, this My Account is where you can change your own account. You can change your username. Sorry, James, your hand is up.
Sorry, guys. And sorry, Tim, for interrupting again. Tim, just go back onto the user guides, if you could, for me. You'll notice everyone, Tim, can you just point out the microbit setup guide?
Here we go.
So the microbit, you can use the BBC microbit with Python in Pieces, and it allows you to download a hex code. And whilst this, and you upload that onto your microbit, the code that you've created, whilst this is just a very simple explanation of, what the parts of a microbit are and how you connect it up. You can connect motors to this, you can connect speakers and all sorts of things. And within the Python in Pieces microbit module that we have, where we've downloaded all the microbit libraries ready for you to use, you've got things in there like compass and accelerometer and those kind of things, which you can use to actually begin to program some robotics there. I just thought I'd mention that, Tim. I hope that's okay.
Cool, thanks, James. Yeah, so we didn't speak about microbits just yet, but microbits are available to be used inside Python Pieces, which is really, really cool. So the next thing I'm going to jump into really quickly are these levels. So just so you know, what sets Python in Pieces apart from other standard coding programs is that we, like James said earlier, we're transitioning our learners from block-based code into syntax. And these levels are self-paced. Let me just add in. Yeah, the levels are self-paced. So you don't need to, sorry, James, your hand's up again.
Sorry, it's not. I just forgot to take it down. Apologies.
Cool, sorry, it was flashing at me. So I figured you had some more input. So what I'm saying is the lessons inside the levels are self-paced, and they do have instructional videos throughout every single challenge and every single lesson. So this just allows you to get your learners to go into Python in Pieces, watch the videos, do the challenges, follow the instructions, and then once they are out the other side of the lesson, you can just go and mine that data. Basically, you can go into the data area and see what the results are, and you can print reports that way. So if I just open one of the lessons, I know that some of you here, like I said, have been using the program for a while, and some of you have never looked at it. So just to show you what a lesson will look like, it always starts with a video. So this video, turn that down, and this video will it will show you basically what the lesson or the level is going to be all about. And then when you start that, there will be another instructional video that will tell you exactly what to do this lesson. So opening that up, we would have gotten some instructions on how we need to write this code or what we need to do. And we're just starting with a very basic hello world to get started with. But this is going to show you really nicely what we're talking about when we say that we've got the split screen with the code and with the blocks. So what makes Python in Pieces very different is that even though you can change what's written in the block or change what the block looks like on the left-hand side, I'll just go put in my hello. Anything that you change in the text on the right-hand side will affect the block. So if I break the code, you'll see there, the block will break and we'll see that that piece of code is not going to work. So how this actually works in terms of learning how to write in Python is that the lessons will instruct you exactly what to do. And parts of our level 1 lessons will actually ask you to please just use the print area of the page. And we are trying to get our kids in the first level to use about 20% text and 80% blocks. And then we move into level 2, which is about 50% text, 50% blocks. And then in level 3, it's 80-20. And then we're going to move into our free code area where your learners can start to code anything they want and make any programs or games that they'd like to make there. And hopefully by that point, they'll be really comfortable using the text, and they'll see that using text is actually much quicker and easier when you know what's going on. So just to finish this quickly, we'll put in the hello world. Now, once you've completed the task, what you've been asked to do, you're going to have to run the program before you assess it. So you're going to run the program and it's going to show you, there's your output on the bottom of the screen, and then it's just going to point you to do the assessment. So it's going to do an auto assessment to begin with, and then there's a self-assessment area. So the self-assessment is just to stop our learners from just clicking next, next, next all the time and not actually focusing on what's happening on the screen. So they're going to have to pause at self-assessment and then check that you can see the output in the output panel, which is on the bottom left. So there we're just pointing out the output panel, where it is and what it does, basically. Then they check that they can see it, stage complete, and then they move on to the next lesson, and so on. Right, you'll see that in every single instructional video, there is a hint button on the bottom left. So when they use that hint, it will show in the data area that they've used hints. It'll tell you exactly how many hints they've used for every lesson. So you will see that some of your learners might motor through the whole program, but when you go and check the results, you can see that maybe they've used a hint for 8 out of the 9 lessons. And then you can then go as an admin and reset their whole entire session and make them start again, basically. And that will just work through the program where it will build on itself and just add to the text that you're writing. And it does get a lot more complex than what I'm showing you right now. But I think you hopefully understand the idea of what we're trying to get at here. So you can change to only block view or only text view if you'd like, but the split view is really, really helpful because they can see a nice, basically a puzzle piece on the left-hand side to see that they've put the string together properly. And yeah, it's just a really nice way of showing you that you're doing the right thing, basically. So I'm going to go out of this level, and like I said, it does get more complex as the program goes along. It builds on itself, and you will see from my point of view exactly how much of the lesson I've covered. And as a teacher, we can go into this data area, and you can go through all of the levels and see lesson 1 output. I've just got 3 kids in my school. Obviously fake users that have been using this program, and I can see that Andrew has only completed 11% of the program. He's done 1 out of 9 lessons. Brooklyn's done 2 out of 9, got 22%, used no hints, and user 11, which is me. So Tim has done 9 out of 9, got 100% completion, and used 3 hints. So the score over here doesn't tell you how they've done in terms of getting things wrong or right. It's just completion of the program, and you can see then on the hints taken how you think they've done in completing the tasks, and you can then go and reset all the tasks for them if you'd like to. So we're really trying to just get our learners to understand that they can make mistakes and then complete the tasks that have been set for them to do, and not just saying that was wrong and we're taking away points for that. It's all about completion of the tasks. So you can also go, if you're an admin and you're assigned to more than one class, you can go and show for over here, change to see which classes you want to see the work for. So if I just go and see my grade 9s, it's only going to show me my grade 9 learners. And you can also go and choose individual learners from that class. So if you want to print out a report and export it to Excel, you can choose an individual learner and print out a report for each of them, or print out an entire class report. And that is the data area. So, I mean, like I started saying, the Python in Pieces is a much easier program to introduce you to and show you where all the bits and pieces are, because just by clicking around yourself, you will find you'll find out how to use the program, and all of the instructions will be there for you. So the only thing that I'm just going to open up now just to show you is something that was made that's in our community showcase. I've got it open here, just to give you an idea of what a bit of code can look like when it's complete. And so, you know, we do have a whole design element inside Python in Pieces. So we're not going to have to write the code, then go design the program somewhere else. You've got the design inside Python in Pieces. This is just a design that's been pre-made here. We've got all the sprites that are in here and the background. Then if I go to my code, this is our Python code that has been written for it. I can look again just in block view. I switch to that, that's what my blocks look like, and I can go to split view, which is again really helpful to see how my blocks have translated into script. And running that, you'll see here's the game that has been created. Let's go around. This was one of my favorite games growing up, so I'm really happy this is here. Yeah, and you can just see that it will run through the code of what we've created. So you can obviously make some much more complex code and really nice games and get really quite involved with some time and effort being put into the program. So that is the last thing that I'm going to show you, just because most of you are just getting started. This is how you get started on Python in Pieces. This is how it works. And I want to just point out one thing that has come up a few times with some of our teachers, is that they're saying that when they're writing the correct code, but they are running it and then clicking assess, and it's not assessing all the points of the task. It's because the code hasn't completed running through. So some of the lessons are a bit longer than others. Excuse me. So the longer lessons, you will have to let the code run all the way through before you can assess the task. Otherwise, it's going to think that you never completed the task, and it's going to tell you that it's wrong. So sometimes it does take a bit of patience when you're doing a repeat command of maybe writing out a hello or a smiley face 50 times. If you haven't set your code run to be very fast and it's sitting on a slow run, you're going to be sitting there for a little while, but you have to wait for that code to run before you can assess it. It's not a bug, so when you do see it, please just remember that's what you need to do.
Sorry, yeah, with that slider for the flow of execution, the reason that we added that in was so that if you've got a program that you want the children to debug, you can actually slow down the flow of execution, and it will go through line by line very slowly, and the children will see, each line being called, each variable being called in the debug panel. But if I slow this down and then run, what you'll see is it calling each line, and in this debug panel here, I can see every single thing, its position, what line is then being called for my functions as it goes through the script. And you can see it calling each line, and that's very useful because it allows children to understand that whilst this is a script and it's constantly running through each line of code, when something happens, it stops at a specific line to run different functions. I'll just speed it up so you can see what this game is, and I'll start it again. So this is a catching game controlled by left, right, similar to Tim's sound effects. And it actually gets hard as you are playing it. If you get good at the game, it increases. So that flow of execution, yeah, definitely not a bug, and also really useful thing to help you teach how a program works.
I'd like to know if you have any questions right now. While James is here, I think it's a really good time to ask any of the more complicated questions.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yes, I just wanted to just give you some more encouraging feedback, and that is certainly, when my class joined the Python in Pieces, it was seamless and went well, but we haven't used it. And the reasons for that has simply been the incredibly disruptive year that we have had. I ended up in 2 weeks isolation, and I was barely back at school, and then we went back into lockdown and what have you. And obviously being a very practical subject where you need to be there for the students, that ability for us to be in the same room at the same time. I mean, we've lost about 5 weeks of our school time, and we only, So the reason we have not used it has been circumstantial, and not because we are scared to try it or it doesn't work or we don't think it's a great idea.
Good, thanks for the feedback. It's really awesome to hear. I mean, I'm sorry to hear you in isolation, and I know it's been a rough year for a lot of people. So obviously we do understand. Hopefully we pick it up soon. I do hope that all of this passes quite soon and we can move on. It's nice to know that if you would like to, you can get your learners to do this at home, even if they're just doing the first couple of levels of lesson 1, giving them something to do. And there are always those kids that do love to just go off and learn things really fast and then start making games and maybe make us the next future Facebook. So yeah, Mr. Niemann, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, hello Tim. I hope you're doing well. I've got a question about the tasks in the new project. So if I click on tasks, the only thing that I can set are the levels and the so your pre-coded levels that you've got already available. I do have the new project, and under the new project, you can do free code. I just want to know, is there a way that I can set free code tasks for students to measure their skill up to that point? So something that's not a task that's predefined by you, which I've got hints. Is that clear enough, my question?
I think so. I think what you're asking is if you can set things that are not levels
Yes.
as new projects as tasks. So if I'm answering you correctly, I'm going to say that there are a couple of options. One of those options is to go into the free code area yourself and start a bit of code. And then when you save that into your documents area, you can then set that bit of code that you've started as a task for your learners. And then you can give them the instructions to carry on the code. Maybe just give them a bit of a jump start so that they can move on from what you've created yourself. I think James wants to talk. He might have some useful nuggets.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. That was a really good explanation. I was going to say very similar thing. Yeah, if you create a starting point for your students with some code in there, and then you get them going. There isn't actually a way of you creating, I suppose, your own levels or anything like that. What interestingly though, one of the things that we had in consideration for future development, but again, I suppose just like schools, COVID has kind of re-scuppered some of those plans, was to have much more discrete skills. So that there'd be, we were going to call them tutorials. So you would have a tutorial on how to write a function, and then we would get them to write a function and then just assess that one discrete thing. And that's something that we'd still like to do, to look at all those things that they can do in Python and just assess this one thing. Can you write? Can you print something? Can you do calculations? So it's really nice to actually hear that you kind of wanting to almost do that sort of thing. It means we're heading in the right direction ultimately with the product. I can't unfortunately tell you though when something like that will be. I mean, just because our focus has had to be a bit more purple mash because of the amount of users that we have. Okay. However, in the future, it's more than possible.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, James.
Not a problem. Thank you. Cool.
If you'd like me to just quickly share my screen and show you how that works, I can do that really fast. So let me just share this. I'm not going to obviously go and make some epic code here that you're going to change. But if you go as the teacher and you open new code and you go to, new project, and you go to free code and you launch that, you can, like we said, we can start some code. I'm not going to write anything. I'm just going to bring in some blocks. You'll see my code will start on the right-hand side, and you can go and you can put in a design. So you can choose any kind of background or upload a picture if you would like them to do some specific code. And then you're going to save that and just go save it into your own.
Tim, just to stop you there, because interestingly, the block that you dragged out is the perfect block to actually do this. Before you save, if you just go back to the code, so if you use the hash or the comment block, can you see the orange block that you've got there, Tim?
Yes.
Just drag. So you can do it in Python just by doing the hash and then typing. You could actually write instructions directly there. I would like you to do this. I would like you to do that. And by commenting it out, you can just tell them exactly what you want them to do without even giving them any of the blocks if you don't want to. Or you can say, I've included the other blocks on this screen that I want you to use. Using the comments in that way is a really smart thing to do.
Yeah,
sorry.
Perfect. That's great.
That's a good thing to mention.
Thanks, James. Yeah, that's a really good point to, I mean, it's what you could do when you're setting the task. It's actually quite nice for you to put it into the program as a comment. I think that's actually brilliant, because then we are teaching them how to comment on text as well. So just to move on from there, if I go and I click save, and I'm going to save it into my own documents folder, and I'm going to say, I'm just going to call it a test project and save it in there. And then I'm going to go back to my folders So it's my documents, and you will find in my documents, I've put it in here somewhere now. There we go. So I've got a test program, and I'm just going to go and highlight that and click Set Task. Now, when you click Set Task, then you can give it a title, you can give a description, you can record yourself telling your learners what you want them to do. You can give them a whole lot more comments in there, and you can even say, look on the code to see the comments that I've made. Comments are written using a hash. So that's how you would write the description, and then you would just go and set it for your task with the date that you'd like to set it for, when you'd like them to hand it in, and set it for a specific class. So I hope that answers your whole question. It is a nice, really fun way of getting around Python in pieces, because you are then adding your own bit of flair to the program. So I hope.
Perfect. Thanks, Tim.
Great. Okay, so we've got no more questions. Is there anything that you'd like to end off with, James, before we close off?
No, just thank you for having me, and yeah, really good questions again. Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate you having me.